The Tampa Bay Buccaneers have a week 3 matchup versus the New York Jets, two teams that are similar in some ways and different in other ways as well. Let's talk about it. Shout out to Sleeper, by the way, more on them a little bit later on in this video. I'm not alone in this video today. Joining me is my good friend, Mr. Ian of Jets Central. Ian, how you doing today?
James, what's going on, man? I'm fired up for the game on Sunday. I'm going to be at the game. I was hoping you were going to be at the game, but no, it should be a lot of fun.
I know that's a subtle shot, by the way, for everybody. Ian texted me and was like, "Hey man, you want to go to the game?" And then I couldn't go because I have to live stream and stuff. So I do need to get out to a game though. I really do. Ian, this is a big game for a lot of reasons, right? It's always big, NFL games and stuff like that. But the creamsicle uniforms are returning for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the all whites, the ones that they wore during their first ever season as a football team. So that is a big deal as well. A lot of different storylines going on with the Jets and the Bucs going into this game. I feel like the most important place to start is with the Bucs offense versus the Jets defense, because the Jets have a defensive minded head coach right now in Mr. Aaron Glenn. You've got Steve Wilkes there, who I really respect as a defensive coordinator. I think that he does a fantastic job as well, given a lot of different situations. And this is a Buccaneers offense, Ian, that is so freaking hurt. Let me go ahead and read you the starting offensive line for the Bucs right now. This is absolutely no joke. At starting left tackle, you don't have Tristan Wirfs. He's out. It's going to be Graham Barton, who is usually your team's starting center. At left guard, you usually have Mike Jordan, who is a practice squad elevation. He's been elevated the past 2 weeks now. He did not practice as of the recording of this video on Thursday. So if he can't go, you might have Elijah Klein at left guard, maybe in Dan Feeney, who knows. At center, you have Ben Bredesen, who is usually your starting left guard, but because Graham Barton is in at starting left tackle, Ben Bredesen has to fill in at starting center. At right guard, Ian, Cody Mock, guess what? He's on the IR. He's out for the year. He had a knee procedure done. So now you're going to have a scenario where either Elijah Klein is going to be starting at right guard or possibly Dan Feeney is starting at right guard, who they signed from the Buffalo Bills practice squad. Then at right tackle, Luke Gedeke was placed on the IR, $20+ million per year right tackle. He's going to be out for the next 4 games. So you're either going to have Charlie Heck starting at right tackle or Benjamin Chukwuma starting at right tackle. And that is such an important place to start, in my opinion, because whenever I look at the New York Jets and just the defense that they have in that 4-3 defense, Ian, they've got some dogs at pass rusher. Will McDonald's there. Harrison Phillips is there. Quinnen Williams is there. Jermaine Johnson is there as well. Now, one interesting thing to know with Jermaine Johnson, he's been a little bit hobbled up by injuries. He had an ankle injury, did not participate in Wednesday's practice. I don't know if he participated in Thursday's practice. He did not. So
Nope.
That could be an interesting thing to make a note of. You do have Michael Clemens, who is there, a bit of an interesting kind of backup role player in that organization. So point being I'm making is this. Look, the Bucs offensive line is decimated right now. So whenever we think about the biggest weakness for the Bucs offense versus the Jets defense, it's got to be that offensive line, right?
Yeah, I mean, you got to think so. Like the Jets. So to kind of just summarize the Jets' defensive performances so far this season, in the Week 1 game, the run defense was awesome. They were able to set the edge effectively. They were getting in the backfield. Quinnen had a sack. Quincy had a sack. Will McDonald had 2 sacks. It was great. But the pass defense was just so utterly bad. Like Rodgers diced him up for 4 TDs. They couldn't cover anybody. It's funny, by the way, that you mentioned that thing about Steve Wilkes, because he is on a lot of Jets fans, on
Hot
their
seat.
list of issues so far
Okay,
through this
interesting.
team. Yeah, and overall, again, the front looked good in Week 1, and you're thinking, okay, Harrison Phillips and Quinnen, okay, we're getting in the backfield. This is really cool. Pass defense, right? If they can maybe just focus in and kind of, figure out some of those issues in that week of camp or in that week of practice, rather, we get to Buffalo. Hopefully the defense will look a lot better. Problem was Buffalo's, they come in and immediately just start racking up points, right? First 4 possessions that the Bills touched the ball, they scored all 4 times. and the Jets started slow, and it was just a big snowball effect from that point. But to answer your question about the defense, in the Bills game, the run defense was non-existent. They gave up over 220 rushing yards. It was not good at all. And, if you didn't watch the game, you're looking at Josh Allen's numbers and you're saying like, oh, okay, well, they're pedestrian numbers. The secondary must have been pretty good. Nope. That was not really the case either. It just kind of felt like Buffalo was just doing whatever they wanted. And early on, it just kind of felt like they were toying with the Jets defense, but they were having so much success in the running game. It was just very, very bad. Overall, the Jets defense has allowed over 60 points through 2 games, 30 points in each matchup. Just not good whatsoever. So I am hoping, right? This is kind of the area for me, like as a Jet fan here, looking at it from their perspective. This is the side of the football that needs to wake up. They cannot get down early in this game. They cannot go down by 20, 30 points or something. Because the offense just does not have the capability to come back, storm back in games. But yeah, the defense from top to bottom has been I would say a pretty big or alarming issue for, a lot of Jets fans here.
See, it's interesting to me because when I take a look at this Jets defense, I do see a lot of potential, right? Like you do see a lot of guys who have gone out there and have done some good stuff, like Sauce Gardner, Quincy Williams, Jamie and Sherwood, stuff like that. Where I agree with you, where the Buccaneers might be able to have a little bit of an attack plan on the offensive side of that ball is yes, while I believe that the Jets pass rush looks pretty solid on paper with all those names, they have to get the run game going in this game because, quite frankly, passing the ball that might not be the easiest thing to do in the world when you have that many good pass rushers on the Jets. With the combination of the Bucs severely decimated in that offensive line, and whenever you look at the Bucs, 101 rushing yards in week 1, 169 in week number 2. It is interesting that you made a note of like, hey, the run defense was really solid in week number 1 for the Jets, not so much in week number 2, because that's going to be where the Buccaneers, I feel like their main point of attack needs to be, given all the decimation of their offensive line. They've got to get Rashad White and Bucky Irving going. I don't necessarily know how much Mike Evans can get involved if Sauce Gardner is following him around, very similar to what like Derek Stingley did in the Texans game in Monday Night Football. But you do have Brandon Stevens there at cornerback. You do have Michael Carter II. He's questionable right now, I believe, for the game. He's been a little bit banged up as well. Emeka Egbuka is also on the injury report for the Buccaneers. He did not participate in Wednesday's practice, got a little bit of work in Thursday's practice. So this may have to be a scenario where it's Jets run defense versus Bucs running game. And that's just kind of the situation there, Ian. So that is a very, very intriguing thing to note there. Whenever we talk about the Jets offense now versus the Bucs defense, well, Ian, this is a Buccaneers defense that has sustained a couple of injuries. You have a guy in Kalijah Kancey. He's on the IR. He tore his pec. He's out for the year. So your defensive line now consists of Vita Vea at nose tackle, Logan Hall and Greg Gaines in there as well. Elijah Roberts is in there, and they signed a guy called Elijah Simmons off of the Arizona Cardinals practice squad. At inside linebacker, you have Levante David and Servassier Dennis. I've talked about it on my channel. Servassier Dennis has been really rough in pass coverage the past couple of weeks whenever he needs to cover the middle of the field. And you need to get the pass rush going as well with the Bucs defense. Servassier Dennis, or not Servassier Dennis, Yaya Diaby, Hassan Reddick, those guys need to get rolling in terms of generating consistent pass rush. Now, whenever I look at this New York Jets offense, Ian, there's a couple of things that point out to me. One, I feel like they have a solid group of running backs. Breece Hall, Braylon Allen, Isaiah Davis. That's a solid group of guys, right? I feel like one of the Jets' goals is to get those guys going, right? Take control of that run game and get after it. With Kalijah Kancey out and Greg Gaines in, they may look to do that. But in that wide receiver room, a little bit banged up. Josh Reynolds is in there. He's been questionable, a little bit banged up. Garrett Wilson is obviously there. I assume he's going to be going up against guys like Jamel Dean and Zion McCollum in this upcoming game. Tyler Johnson, former Tampa Bay Buccaneer, by the way. Shout out to that. But the offensive line, Olu Fashanu, John Simpson, Josh Myers, which Joe Tippmann is there at right guard now, I believe, correct? Because Elijah Vera Tucker is on the IR. That's an interesting note as well, which could affect this matchup. Armand Membu is in there at right tackle. But the big question obviously, is that Justin Fields is not going to be available in this game. He's in the concussion protocol. Tyrod Taylor is going to be the starter. What do you see whenever you look at this matchup of the New York Jets offense versus the Bucs defense?
I think honestly, and by the way, man, shout out to your Jets knowledge, man. Like you really broke down the team well. The plan of attack needs to be get back to basics and run the ball, right? Whether it's Justin Fields, whether it's Tyrod Taylor, this week it's going to be Tyrod. But the point is, it doesn't matter who's playing quarterback. The Jets want to run the football. And in that week 1 game against Pittsburgh, they were doing it with ease. Like Pittsburgh has a veteran defensive line. They've been preparing for the Jets for months on end. Everyone knew that the Jets wanted to run the ball, and they had no success whatsoever doing it. And I knew the Jets were going to be a good running attack, but coming off of that Steelers game, I was just like, wow, like I was not expecting them just to look that effective. And of course, Fields' legs did play a part in it. And I don't think Tyrod is as good of a runner as Justin, but I don't think when you're talking about like realistic drop off with quarterback mobility and whatnot, I don't think it's going from like Lamar to Flacco, or
Yeah,
something like that. Tyrod can definitely move and extend plays. So for me, you got to be able to get in a third and shorts. You have to put the quarterback in a position to have success. You look back to last week against the Bills, and I don't necessarily put last week 100% on Fields like he's the reason why we lost.
sure.
I think there were a couple major factors, and also crediting Buffalo, like they are a Super Bowl favorite here, so it's worth noting.
Yeah.
Not many teams can slow down Josh Allen, and just score, on that Sean McDermott defense, especially when they have the lead early. But Fields was missing open guys. Fields was holding on to the football for too long. I do not like the Jets wide receiving core outside of Garrett Wilson. I'm curious to see how Arian Smith comes along. And I do respect Tyler Johnson as like that wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5, but right now he's the wide receiver 2
Hmm.
on this Jets group. Um,
He was on the practice squad at one point, I think, and then they just promoted him.
yeah, so to be honest, it's been a mess. So Alan Lazard was a healthy scratch in week 1, comes in, has virtually no impact in week 2. Josh Reynolds, who is supposed to be the team's wide receiver 2, is hurt.
Mm.
So that's kind of like the roster gymnastics. Like that's why we have the shuffle, and now Tyler Johnson is RB2. But yeah, really offensively run the ball. If they can do that, have success, get into third and shorts, and just ask Taylor to just manage the game. You don't have to throw it for 35 times a game. You don't have to come back from a 17-point deficit. You don't have to play hero ball. Just hit the open guy, get it to the check down when need be, give or take what the defense gives you, and just play smart efficiently. I think that's enough, in my opinion, to hopefully get in the end zone on this Bucs defense.
One thing I'm super interested about to see in this game is like Mason Taylor as a receiving tight end and also the receiving ability of Brees Hall against the middle of this Bucs defense. Because as I said, Ian, the Bucs have really struggled to stop receiving backs. Bijan Robinson had a couple of really big plays in week number 1. Nick Chubb had a couple of big moments in week 2 in the middle of the field as some receiving options and stuff like that. So I'm curious if we are going to see a similar thing from the Jets with Brees Hall, maybe Mason Taylor in there as well. I am curious, what have been your thoughts on the Jets offensive line? Have they been performing well? I know a lot of people have kind of been like, hey, Joe Tittman should have been the starting center over Josh Myers, but then obviously AVT went down, so then you have to move Tittman over to right guard. So what have been your thoughts and opinions on the Jets offensive line so far?
Yeah, realistically speaking, given the context of where the Jets are currently at, it's been awesome. Armand Membu, top 10 pick. He's performed very, very, very well. And in the week 1 game, he's going up against TJ Watt the majority of the time. And of course, Mike Tomlin, Terrell Austin calling that Steelers defense. I felt like a lot of Jets fans felt like, okay, tough, tough matchup to say the least, coming out like in your rookie debut. You got to line up against Watt. Week 2 against the Buffalo Bills, not as impressive, but still very, very good. Olu, of course, as the left tackle, still a super, super young player. I believe he's only 22 or 23 years old. He's progressing nicely. Hasn't been perfect, but again, understanding that the best offensive lineman on the team went down with injury in AVT. You got to move things around. Joe Tittman, like you said, bounces over to guard. Myers steps into center. overall, the Justin Fields has had time to throw. Like that's really the bottom line. They've done a great job in the running game. They've done a really good job of giving the quarterback time. Not saying they're a top 5 offensive line or anything like that, but they've definitely been above average and performing good enough for the offense to win. So yeah, I like where they stand.
So whenever we take a look at the methods of attack for the Jets and the Bucs, right? For the Bucs, it seems like it is, hey, run the football, try and get the run game going. The Jets are coming off of a bad run defense game against the Buffalo Bills. You have two very strong running backs there in Bucky Irving and in Rashad White. Look, your offensive line is decimated. Emeka Ibuka might be a little bit banged up. Baker, we don't want to see Baker taking a lot of hits, right? Just try and control the game. Maybe this will be a low scoring affair, but just try and run the football and control the game against a Jets defense that's coming off of a bad week. Now, for the Jets, and also try to get pressure on backup quarterback Tyrod Taylor, make him a little bit uncomfortable in terms of defensive stuff, take advantage of some of those playmakers for the Jets being a little bit banged up and maybe a little bit of a shaky wide receiver room as well. You can kind of focus in on that run defense against Breece Hall and some of the guys there and try and stall out that Jets offense. For the Jets versus the Bucs, it honestly sounds like a pretty similar game plan, right? Like, hey, run the football, take some of that pressure off of Tyrod Taylor. Don't pass the football a ton because you don't necessarily have the weapons right now in that receiving room. Maybe take some shots in terms of some stuff like short, maybe over the middle of the field, stuff like that. On defensively, look, try and prevent the run when you can. Whenever they do pass, get after that offensive line that's kind of put together by duct tape at this point. It sounds like two very similar modes of attack here. Is that fair to say?
I would say so. One thing that you brought up before, so I'm a big fan of Michael Jordan, right, at left guard. I didn't realize that he's banged up as well.
Yep. Yes, he is. So he actually is currently dealing with a little bit of an injury. The media isn't sure as to why yet, just because of injuries and stuff like that. And practice squad players, you don't have to report those injuries because he's currently on the practice squad. So it is something to make a note of. We don't nobody knows really the extent of the injury right now until it's like reported and stuff like that. So we're gonna have to wait and see on that. Real quick, Ian, I do want to say though, shout out to the sponsor of this channel here, MrBucsNation. It is Sleeper. If you guys do use the code MrBucs, you will get a $100 deposit match up to $100. That is whenever you use the code Sleeper. Guys, download the #1 sports app today and enjoy football the way it was meant to be. That is together. A couple more things I want to talk about here, Ian. Firstly, in terms of the special teams, the Bucs are actually a little bit of flux right now in terms of special teams play. They had a blocked punt last week, which was just horrible special teams play, right? Todd Bowles said it was inexcusable, not great. You then had the kicking game, which has been really off in terms of McLaughlin. He's missed 3 kicks through 2 weeks now. Not a good situation. You then also had a really long return where maybe there were some penalties not called, things along those lines, whatever people may think. How are the New York Jets looking in terms of special teams? Because you've got Kene Nguanu, who is currently questionable right now. He's the starting kick returner. Isaiah Williams, starting punt returner. Kind of how have they been looking in terms of special teams currently?
Yeah, I mean, from top to bottom, special teams is so it's interesting with the Jets, right? Because they have a brand new special teams coach, obviously, and Chris Banjo coming in, and he did some awesome things in preseason. There were a lot of people, a lot of different reporters talking about just how improved the special teams unit looked as a whole, punt coverage, return game, kicking game. Like there was a lot of impressive talking points. And then in that week 1 game, the kicking game is okay, right? McNamara at punter, Nick Folk reuniting with the Jets after all those years. The kicking game is fine. But Xavier Gibson basically blew the game. He had 2 fumbles on special teams, one of which came early and the Jets were able to fall on it. But I'm sure you probably watched you caught the play where Gibson fumbled at midfield. It was like that was the instant turning point. It was like a 14-point swing by Pittsburgh at that point. And then
And he's gone
basically,
now.
yeah, and so the Jets cut him, I believe, 2 days after that game. So they're in a bit of a weird spot with the return game, especially with Nguanu being hurt. But I don't necessarily feel like it's been something that I would say it's a weak spot or it's the Achilles heel of this football team. I think basically in every other facet outside of returning, they're pretty good. Punt coverage, kick coverage, field goals, extra points, punting, I feel pretty good about, but punt return, kick return, not the best.
I'm going to be very curious to see how this game goes, man. I really feel like it may just be a defense versus defense clash, right? If you're saying like, hey, the more weaker aspect of the Jets right now is kind of that inconsistency on offense, with the Bucs dealing with a boatload of injuries on their offense, I'm curious to see if this comes down to like a defensive kind of stalemate kind of thing. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's really the style or the brand of football that the Jets want to play, right? Like it's kind of like the classic football 101. Like you see so many teams try to run the ball effectively, eat the clock, control the game, control the tempo, keep the opposing offense off the field, and play stout defense. Problem is the Jets are not playing stout defense and they're giving up touchdown after touchdown after touchdown, field goal after field goal. And it's very tough to try to play this run centric ball control style of offense if the defense is just getting, shredded. Um, and again, right, credit Rodgers, credit Josh Allen. It's not like we're going up against like New Orleans or Carolina or something where you feel better about the matchup. Like you are going up against very smart quarterbacks, and it does not change this week with Baker. So for me, it kind of feels like the main storyline throughout the week, like big media, is Fields to Tyrod. But for me, it's can this defense actually hold up? Can they step up to the plate and win the Jets a football game? They have a defensive mind in Aaron Glenn running the show. You have a veteran defensive coordinator, Steve Wilks, calling the defense. They're running a system that a lot of players on paper fit. It should not be getting sliced like this weekly. It frankly shouldn't.
So one more thing I like to do, it's always like the revenge game thing, quote unquote, for me. I always like seeing like who is on like the opposing team's 53-man roster who used to play for the Bucs and vice versa. So it was interesting for the Jets. Obviously, we talked about Tyler Johnson, former Tampa Bay Buccaneer, won the Super Bowl with them. That was a lot of fun. Aside from that, Ian, I'm looking through the only other guy who played for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I want you to see if you can guess him. I'll give you one guess.
I'm going to say, man, I don't know. I actually do not know. It's gotta be a backup, right?
It is he is technically a starter. He's technically a starter.
Technically a starter.
Yeah.
I don't know. Hit me.
Nick Folk.
Oh, okay, okay. I was
Remember
thinking like backup defensive lineman, offensive lineman. Like
Yeah.
who could it be? But
Nick
yeah, Nick
Folk,
Folk. How long was he there for? A year or two?
like 7 games, I think.
Okay.
Because that was during the
Okay.
time of Roberto Aguayo. And they just could not find a kicker. I think Folk was here in 2016 or 2017, somewhere along those lines. Now, obviously for the Bucs, there is a guy or two who played for the Jets. Teddy Bridgewater, shout out Teddy B, former New York Jet, right? Aside from that, just kind of looking through, I don't think really Deion Jones never played for the Jets. I know that for a fact.
Well, there's
Um,
one big one that.
I do know that. I do know
Okay.
that.
Okay. Just making sure. Just
We
making
will
sure.
get to that. Kindle Vidor, I don't think ever played for the Jets. I think the only player is Teddy. Obviously, the big one is Todd Bowles, the head coach of the football team. Is there another one?
So we hit up the Bucks practice, right? And there I did see one former Jet out there. I don't know if he's still on the team. I don't know if he made the practice squad, but it was
Hassan
Bryce Hall.
Reddick. Oh,
Oh
Hassan
yeah,
Reddick was
Hassan
there
Reddick.
as
I was gonna say
well.
Bryce Hall.
Yes, Bryce Hall is on the practice squad. That is true as well. Of course, there's 3 players then: Teddy B, Hassan Reddick, and obviously Bryce Hall. Very good shout out there. Bryce Hall is on the practice squad currently. I don't think he's going to get elevated for this game because they're probably going to be using a lot on the offensive line. Hassan Reddick's an interesting one, I suppose. Just because that is just a story that I think everybody would want to forget. Reddick, the Jets, everyone, right, just wants to move forward with that. But obviously the big one's Todd Bowles. This is the second time the Bucs have played the Jets while Todd Bowles has been head coach. Last time was in 2022. The Bucs won that game. So we'll see if the Jets can get some revenge on their former head coach, or Todd Bowles will continue his streak against his former team. But Ian, I think we've pretty much covered everything, dude.
Yeah, man, it was a lot of fun. Real quick question for you: where's your like? You don't have to be nice, right? I'm a
Yeah.
Jet fan. I know it.
Yeah,
Don't
for
hold
sure.
any punches back. Confidence level for this game. I know. I think if you guys were healthy, it would be pretty
It'd be
obvious.
it would
On
be different. Here's the thing for me. There is so much going wrong against the Bucs in this game that I'm only slightly feeling good about this game. Very, very slightly. Um, because a lot of their playmakers are still there. But when you're down to your third, fourth, fifth offensive lineman at certain positions, that's a bad time. Whenever I also see as well, like, hey, the Jets really can generate some pressure. They've got a lot of guys, they got a defensive minded head coach and stuff like that. That's the biggest thing that worries me about this game is the Jets defense versus that Buccaneers offensive line specifically. That worries me a lot. One thing I feel like the Bucs obviously can do to um, go up against that is running the football, like we talked about. Um, I think Tyrod Taylor is a very capable quarterback. I think he is one of the better backups in the league, in my opinion. Um, I don't, I am curious to see what the Bucs defense is going to do versus this Jets offense. I feel better about that, the Bucs defense versus the Jets offense versus the Jets defense versus the Bucs offense. I feel better about the Bucs defense versus the Jets offense because of the fact that, hey, they are on their backup quarterback. That is a factor into this. They're not super duper stacked at wide receiver. It's a little bit thin in there right now. Yes, Kalijah Cansey is hurt, but the defense just point blank is healthier than the offense right now. You know what I mean? Like, and
yeah,
that's a big factor for me. The run defense looked pretty solid recently. So I know that Brees Hall is a big attacking piece for the Jets in that offense. So I feel like if they are able to neutralize him and kind of contain Garrett Wilson, I think the defense can have a good day against this Jets offense, right? The big worry for me in this game where I'm like, who knows, is just how decimated that offensive line is. And that is a major, major concern going not just in this game, but obviously in future games as well. So this is going to be kind of like a big litmus test here of like, hey, how can you deal with smart defensive minds that are going to attack this makeshift offensive line? Let's see how this works, right? So that's kind of where I'm at, where I'm like, okay, I'm slightly, very slightly feeling good going into this game. But the injuries certainly worry me, no doubt about it.
yeah,
How do
because
you
they're
feel?
so I mean, I try to be optimistic. I feel pretty good, based off of again the injuries and whatnot. There is just a lot of maybe fans that are just at the point of like, you got to show us something, right? New York, like if you want us to like fully get behind you, like you have to be able to either close games, be competitive in games, win a game. That I mean, that would be really nice at this point. And granted, we're only 0-2. There's a lot of season left, and of course, the first two teams that we did play are projected to be pretty good. Um, but I think the thing that's the most frustrating aspect about this whole Jets 2025 season so far, and again, it's early, but the amount of talent that we have on paper, like we have all pros all over the place, but it just doesn't look like that on the field. Like you can see like individual performances are like a really good play here and there, but just like collectively, and I'm mostly talking about on defense, it's just been very, very strange. We have four really solid defensive linemen. We have two solid linebackers. On paper, we should have like four, really like three out of the five, right? Like looking at like the three corners and the two safeties, like three out of the five, I would say are above average players. And then you know, like if you're taking all of that, comparing it to the rest of the league, like, yeah, you should not be bottom five. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. It's going to be interesting, man. It's going to be interesting. Guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Hope y'all enjoyed. Hey, go subscribe to Ian over at Jet Central. He does fantastic, fantastic work there covering the New York Jets. We actually had to use his setup for this video today because Zoom hates us. It is what it is. Ian, where else can the people find you here on the social medias?
Yeah, just run a YouTube channel called Jets Central, talking all things Jets. Pretty much the same thing that James does, but obviously for New York. So yeah, thanks so much for the invite, man.
Love it, man. Love it. Well, guys, hey, let us know your thoughts and opinions about this down in the comments section below. We'd love to hear it. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Hope y'all enjoyed. And as always, guys, we'll see you all in the next video or the next live stream. But until then, and as always, guys, goodbye for now and go Bucs.